It all began on an ordinary Thursday evening in Brookhaven, a town that rarely made headlines. The streets outside were painted gold with the last rays of sunset, while inside the local supermarket, fluorescent lights buzzed softly overhead. Shoppers pushed carts filled with weeknight dinners and after-school snacks, their conversations mingling with the steady beep of checkout scanners. To anyone watching, it looked like just another routine evening. Yet within those ordinary aisles, something extraordinary was about to unfold, something that would change lives forever. Near the produce section, a little girl wandered beside a man who held her hand firmly. She wore a lavender hoodie, slightly oversized, her hair tied back in two messy braids. At first glance, she looked like a child shopping with her father, quiet, obedient, staying close. But there was something in her demeanor that told another story. Her eyes didn't dance with curiosity like most children. They didn't dart toward the colorful cereal boxes or the bins of candy. Instead, they stayed low, guarded, as if she was trying to make herself invisible. Her lips pressed into a thin line, her small shoulders tense. And that was the first sign, subtle, almost imperceptible, that she wasn't simply a child out shopping, that she was carrying a secret she couldn't speak aloud, a secret she desperately needed someone to notice. Before we go any further, if this is your first time watching one of our videos, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us bring you even more powerful stories. Stick with us till the very end. And if the story moves you, drop your thoughts in the comments and share it with a friend. Now let's begin. At the same time, Officer James Rowan, known by his colleagues as a steady, unshakable presence on the force, pushed a cart slowly through the aisles. He was off duty, dressed not in uniform but in jeans and a jacket, carrying a list his teenage daughter had scribbled for him. Cereal, pasta, milk, strawberries. The simple reminders of his other life, the one where he wasn't a cop but a father. Rowan had seen enough darkness in his 18 years of service, and he cherished these moments of normalcy, the kind that grounded him in love and responsibility. As he strolled toward the cereal aisle, scanning the shelves for his daughter's favorite brand, a flicker of movement caught his eye. He wouldn't have noticed it if he hadn't slowed down at just the right moment. A small hand lifted, quick and deliberate, stopping briefly at chest level. The girl's palm faced outward, her fingers curling inward, then releasing. It was subtle, so subtle it could have been mistaken for a fidget or a nervous twitch. But Rowan knew better. He froze, his breath catching. That hand sign, he had seen it before. In training sessions, in child safety seminars, in recent national awareness campaigns. It wasn't random. It wasn't meaningless. It was the silent signal for help me. Rowan's chest tightened. He glanced again, this time carefully. The man beside her was taller, broad-shouldered, with a buzzed haircut and a faded jacket that looked worn and grimy. His grip on the girl's wrist wasn't gentle. It was ownership. And though he moved with casual purpose, something in his stride betrayed unease. A quick glance over his shoulder, a stiffness in his jaw, the signs of someone who knew they didn't belong. Every instinct in Rowan screamed at him to act, but experience had taught him restraint. If he lunged too quickly, if he revealed himself too soon, he could put the girl in even more danger. So instead, he did what every fiber of his training demanded. He slowed down. He pushed his cart casually, feigning interest in the boxes on the shelf, while his eyes tracked the pair from his peripheral vision. His pulse thudded in his ears. The girl's eyes flickered toward him once, brief, almost imperceptible. And in that fleeting glance, Rowan saw desperation. He also saw trust, the kind only a child in danger can give to a stranger. Trust that he had noticed. Trust that he would do something. Rowan's heart hammered in his chest as he subtly reached into his pocket, fingers brushing the phone he always carried. He unlocked it without looking down, dialing a code he knew by memory. His voice was low, calm, controlled, years of practice keeping panic out of his tone. Dispatch, this is Rowan. Possible abduction in progress. Brookhaven Market. Male suspect. Mid-30s, buzz cut, dark jacket, with a minor. Silent rescue signal confirmed. The dispatcher's voice crackled back in his ear, steady and professional. Copy that, Rowan. Units en route. ETA 5 minutes. Stay in visual. 5 minutes. Rowan's mind turned over the weight of those words. 5 minutes could be salvation, or 5 minutes too long. Because the man's behavior was shifting, growing twitchier, sharper. He was steering the girl toward the far end of the store, where fewer customers walked. The aisles grew quieter there, lit by colder light. Rowan pushed his cart slowly, pretending to study a display of breakfast bars, while his eyes locked on the suspect. His training kept him composed, but inside he burned with urgency. Every time the man tightened his grip, every time the girl winced, Rowan had to fight the urge to intervene right then and there. The girl's small steps lagged, almost as though she was deliberately slowing them down. Rowan noticed her sneakers scraping softly against the polished floor, her resistance quiet but steady. She wasn't giving up. She was buying time, whether she knew it or not. The man tugged her wrist harder, muttering something under his breath. Rowan inched closer, his cart rolling silently. He positioned himself one aisle over, peering through a gap in the stacked cereal boxes. He could hear fragments now, sharp, hushed words from the man. "Keep moving. Don't make a sound." The girl's lips trembled. She said nothing, but her eyes darted upward again, searching, pleading. When she saw Rowan still there, still watching, something shifted in her expression. A glimmer of hope broke through the fear. Rowan's jaw clenched. He whispered into his phone again. "Suspect heading toward side exit. Moving fast. I may have to engage before backup arrives." "Negative, Rowan. Hold if you can," came the reply. But Rowan knew what his gut was screaming. If that man reached the side exit, if he shoved the girl into a waiting car, she could vanish forever. And Rowan couldn't live with being 5 minutes too late. They reached the frozen food section. The glass doors reflected fragments of movement. The man's tight grip, the girl's small frame, Rowan's steady pursuit. He adjusted his angle, pretending to browse the ice cream tubs, but every muscle in his body was coiled, ready. Then it happened. The moment Rowan would remember for the rest of his life. The man glanced over his shoulder, locking eyes with Rowan for the first time. His gaze hardened, suspicion flashing across his face. He yanked the girl forward, quickening his pace toward the exit. Rowan stepped out from behind the freezer, his voice firm, commanding, carrying the weight of years in law enforcement. "Police! Stop right there!" The man froze for a fraction of a second. The air turned heavy, tense, as if the entire supermarket was holding its breath. The girl's chest heaved, her wide eyes flicking between the two men. "Let her go," Rowan said, his tone unwavering. The man tightened his grip. "She's my niece," he snapped, his words sharp, defensive. "Mind your business." Rowan's stare didn't falter. "Then you won't mind if she confirms that?" "Let her speak." The girl opened her mouth, but no words came, only a shallow breath. Her fear was a cage locking her voice away. Rowan softened his tone just enough, his eyes fixed on her, not the man. "It's okay, sweetheart. You're safe now. Just nod if you need help." Her chin trembled, and then, slowly, courageously, she nodded. The man's facade cracked, his nostrils flared, his jaw set hard. And in that split second, Rowan saw the truth. This wasn't going to end with words. The man shoved the girl forward, trying to break into a run. Rowan lunged, his cart crashing aside as he grabbed the suspect's arm, twisting with practiced precision. The two men grappled, their struggle echoing in the aisle. Shoppers gasped, some backing away, others fumbling for their phones. The girl stumbled, falling to the floor, but scrambled away on her hands and knees. "Run to the front!" Rowan shouted to her, even as he fought to pin the man. She bolted, her sneakers pounding against the tile. Rowan's entire focus narrowed to the fight, his grip locking on the suspect's wrist, the man thrashing, snarling, desperate to break free. Then at last, sirens outside, doors swinging open, voices shouting commands. Backup stormed in, officers swarming the scene. In seconds, the man was on the ground, handcuffed, subdued. Rowan's chest heaved as he stood, sweat glistening at his temple. He looked across the aisle, where the little girl stood trembling, clutching the edge of a shelf. An officer gently guided her toward Rowan. She ran the last few steps herself, throwing her arms around him in a silent, desperate hug. "You're safe now," Rowan whispered, his voice low, steady, breaking only at the edges. "You're safe." The man was taken away in handcuffs, his protest drowned by the officer's commands. The supermarket slowly returned to motion, though the echoes of the struggle lingered in the air. Shoppers whispered to each other in disbelief, clutching their children closer, staring at the place where the danger had just been. But for Rowan, the noise faded. All he saw was the little girl standing in front of him, her small hands trembling as they clung to his sleeve. Her eyes brimmed with silent tears. She didn't sob, didn't speak, just held on as if letting go meant she would disappear again. Rowan knelt down, lowering himself so their eyes met at the same level. "You're safe now," he said again, more gently this time. His voice was softer, the voice of a father. "No one's going to hurt you, I promise." She hesitated, then nodded, a tiny flick of her chin that carried the weight of all her fear and all her relief. An officer brought over a blanket from one of the patrol cars, draping it around her shoulders. She pulled it close, almost hiding inside it, but her hand never left Rowan's arm. By the time detectives pieced together the truth, the story had grown heavier, more chilling. The man wasn't her father, nor her uncle, nor any relation at all. He had taken her from a park nearly 40 miles away. For 2 days, her family had searched desperately, their lives unraveling in fear. Every hour that passed had pulled them closer to despair. And now, because of one signal and one officer who noticed, she was found. That night, Rowan drove to the family's home. He didn't have to, but he knew he couldn't sleep without seeing her safe with the people who loved her. The house sat on a quiet street, its porch light glowing in the dark. When he knocked, the door flew open almost instantly. Her mother stood there, her face pale and worn from sleepless nights. The moment her eyes landed on her daughter, she collapsed into sobs, pulling the girl into her arms. The father appeared seconds later, wrapping them both in an embrace so fierce it seemed to fuse them together. The girl finally let out a sound, a broken, trembling cry that melted into her mother's chest. Rowan stood back, watching, his own throat tightening. This was why he had chosen this life. Not the arrests, not the paperwork, not the danger, but moments like this. The return of a child, the breaking of a nightmare, the proof that sometimes the smallest actions, slowed steps, a hidden signal, could save everything. The girl peeked out from behind her mother, her blanket still wrapped tight. She clutched a worn stuffed bunny that must have been waiting for her at home. And for the first time since Rowan had seen her, she smiled. It was small, shy, but it was real. A child's smile, fragile yet resilient. A smile that promised she was beginning to believe in safety again. For weeks afterward, the story spread through Brookhaven. Parents talked about it at schools, at playgrounds, and coffee shops. Teachers taught their students the silent rescue signal, showing them how to fold their fingers into a wordless cry for help. Awareness rippled outward, and what had once been a tragedy narrowly avoided became a reminder that vigilance matters, that listening with your eyes can be just as important as listening with your ears. Rowan carried the memory with him too. Late at night, when his daughter had gone to bed and the house was still, he would sometimes replay that moment in the cereal aisle. The girl's lifted hand, her quiet bravery, her trust, and he would whisper a silent vow to himself, never miss the small things, never ignore the quiet cries, because sometimes the smallest signals carry the greatest weight. If you believe stories like this should be told, hit that subscribe button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and drop a comment below because your voice matters too.